I moved to this small town just a week ago. The breakup was still fresh in my mind. I thought the cozy, old house would give me peace and help me find some inspiration for my work. The rain started the day I arrived. It felt like the sky was mirroring my mood. On my second night, I heard a thud from the attic. It startled me, but I told myself it was just the house settling. I planned to check it out later. Curiosity grabbed hold of me, though. I climbed the creaking stairs to the attic, my heart picked up pace. I opened the door, and the darkness swallowed me. I found nothing strange, just old boxes and dusty cobwebs. Still, something felt off. The nights that followed were worse. I started seeing shadows flickering in my peripheral vision. I heard bursts of laughter, then silence. Sometimes my clothes would be out of place, like someone had gone through them. I thought maybe I was just tired from working too much. But it felt real. Really real. Then one night, I noticed strange symbols appearing on the attic floor. They looked like old runes. Each symbol made me feel uneasy. What were they? Who had been up there before me? I tried to brush it off, but the questions nagged at me. I remembered an old photograph I found in a dusty frame. It was a family, but I swear I recognized the faces. It felt like they were watching me. One night, lying in bed, I heard another thud louder this time. My heart raced as I sat up. It felt like I was being pulled back to the attic. I hesitated, wanting to run away, but my feet took me up the stairs again. Each step creaked under my weight. I reached the attic, and the air felt heavy around me. I stood there looking at the symbols. They glared back at me in the dim light. Then I thought I heard whispers, soft and muffled. I took a step back, and my foot hit something hard. I froze. In the corner, something was standing there. I blinked, and it was gone. Now, when I think about that night, I can't tell if it was real or a trick of my mind. The house felt alive, hiding secrets behind its walls. What happened to the past residents? Were they still lingering? I had to find out. Yet, part of me was terrified of what I might uncover. The questions consumed my thoughts. I sat at my desk, but my mind wasn't on work. I glanced toward the attic door, imagining what was up there. I felt restless, anxious. Every creak of the house made my skin crawl. I didn't know if I was ready to explore more. Was it just my imagination? Or was there something sinister waiting for me? I knew I had to confront it. I needed to understand what lurked in the corners of that attic. The urge to uncover the truth gnawed at me. But deep down, I wondered if some mysteries should stay buried. Would my quest for answers bring clarity? Or would it cost me more than I could handle? The next morning, I decided I couldn't let fear control me. I needed to understand the situation better. I walked into town, hoping to find some answers. Each step felt heavy, but curiosity pushed me forward. I spotted an old bookstore at the end of the street. Maybe they had something on the town's history or the house itself. Inside, the musty smell hit me like a wave. Rows of books surrounded me, each like a portal to another world. I approached the elderly shopkeeper, a woman with gray hair and a kind smile. "Can you tell me about the old houses in town?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Her eyes lit up, and she nodded. "Ah, you must be referring to the Mitchell house. Strange things have happened there. Been abandoned for years. Some say it's haunted." She paused, gauging my reaction. I chuckled lightly, trying to shake off the discomfort. "Just moved in. I've noticed some odd things." She raised an eyebrow. "The runes, perhaps?" My heart sank. How did she know? Runes? I echoed, trying to sound casual. "Yes. Old stories say the previous owners dabbled in the occult. They left behind things that should not have been disturbed." My stomach twisted. Was that what I had stumbled upon? As she spoke, pieces of that old photograph sprang to mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to know more about the family I recognized. I asked for any records she had. She pulled out a dusty box from behind the counter. My breath quickened as I flipped through old articles. Most were mundane, but one headline caught my eye: "Mysterious Disappearance. The Mitchell Family Vanishes Without a Trace." My skin prickled. "Do you know what happened to them?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The shopkeeper shook her head. "No one ever found out. Just rumors and stories. Some believe they're still in that house, waiting for someone." Her gaze bore into mine. "Be careful, my dear." I left the bookstore feeling as if I had just stepped into a fog. The wind whipped around me, pulling me back toward the house. The discovery hung over me like a storm cloud. Who were the Mitchells, and what really happened to them? I barely made it home before night fell. The attic loomed above me, a dark presence. I paced the living room, anxiety building with each tick of the clock. I could feel eyes watching me, waiting. I knew I had to go up there again. Taking a deep breath, I climbed the stairs. Each creak felt amplified in the silence. The door groaned open, and I stepped inside. This time, the shadows seemed to crawl closer, wrapping around me. I flicked on a flashlight and shone it toward the floor. The symbols were still there, but something new was visible. A small, dark rectangle just beside them, partially concealed by dust. My hands trembled as I brushed away the dirt, uncovering what looked like a trapdoor. That S when I saw it. A latch, old and rusted, waiting just for me. My heart raced. What lay beneath? I was on the edge of something big, but uncertainty clawed at my mind. I had to know, but was I ready for what it might reveal? I reached for the latch, breath held, and pulled. The door creaked open with a low moan, and darkness swallowed me whole. The moment the trapdoor creaked open, a cold gust of air sent shivers down my spine. I aimed the flashlight into the dark abyss below. The beam illuminated wooden stairs that descended into an inky void. My heart pounded louder than ever. I had done it now, I was actually considering going down there. "Just a little peek," I whispered to myself, but the words felt hollow. The attic's shadows seemed to grip my legs, tugging me back. Ignoring the growing dread, I ventured down the stairs, one shaky step at a time. The air grew cooler with each descent, thick with dust and an unsettling silence that pressed against my ears. Finally, I reached the bottom. My flashlight flickered as I scanned my surroundings. The walls were damp and covered with peeling wallpaper, the floor littered with debris. It felt like I had stepped into another era, a forgotten part of the house that time had swallowed whole. In front of me lay an old trunk, its leather cracked and worn. I approached it slowly, every instinct cautioning me to turn back. But the desire to uncover the truth about the Mitchells pushed me forward. My fingers quivered as I unlatched the trunk, nearly dropping the flashlight in my haste. Inside, objects were hidden beneath a layer of dust: a faded journal, a rusted locket, and what looked like an ornate box. I picked up the journal, its pages yellowed with age. The handwriting was almost illegible, but I made out the name, Eliza Mitchell. This was it, a glimpse into the life of the family I had been thinking about since arriving here. As I flipped through the entries, a sense of foreboding crept in. She wrote about strange occurrences, unsettling noises coming from the attic at night, and feelings of being watched. My breath caught in my throat. This was more than just an abandoned house, it was a place steeped in anxiety and dread. Then I stumbled upon an entry dated just days before their disappearance. "We are not alone," it read. "There is something in the walls, something that calls to me in the night. I fear it wants us." A chill raced through me as I wondered if this something was tied to the runes I had seen. Suddenly, a noise echoed in the darkness. A soft thud, like something shifting above me. I froze, flashlight in hand, heart racing. I wasn't alone. I could feel it, that prickle at the back of my neck that warned me of danger. Before I could react, a figure moved in the shadows at the edge of the beam. My breath hitched in my chest. I wasn't just uncovering the Mitchell's past, I was intruding on something that should have remained hidden. The weight of the moment crashed down on me, and I barely had time to swallow my fear before I felt a cold rush of energy sweep past me. I backed away toward the stairs, the journal clutched tightly in my hand. "Who is there?" I called out, my voice breaking. No answer, just an unsettling silence that amplified the thud of my heart. With a deep breath, I turned to flee. But whatever had been in the shadows was closer now. I could feel it crawling up the back of my neck. I sprinted back up the stairs, the wooden steps creaking menacingly under my weight. I slammed the trapdoor shut behind me, the echo resonating in the stillness. Now I was isolated above, gripping the journal tightly, but the fear pulsated within me. I wasn't sure I could ignore what I discovered, but I was terrified of what would happen if I delved deeper. What had I unleashed by opening that door? I had to know, but that fear accompanied me now, an unwelcome shadow, urging me to confront the mysteries of the Mitchell family and whatever lay beneath their old home. I sat on the attic floor, the journal resting on my knees. My hands trembled as I turned the pages again, eyes darting over the fragile, yellowed paper. Each entry felt heavier than the last. The echoes of that noise still haunted me, a whisper in my mind urging me to uncover what hid below. I had to make sense of Eliza's words. If she sensed danger, what about me? My skin prickled at the thought. I gathered my courage and decided I would return to the basement, more prepared this time. I needed a flashlight, maybe something to defend myself with. I could feel the weight of the journal, like it was beckoning me back to that wretched trunk. Just as I stood, a sound jolted me out of my thoughts. A soft tapping, rhythmic and deliberate, came from behind the trapdoor. My heart raced as I gripped the handle. Was it the house settling? The wind? Or something more sinister? I couldn't risk finding out. Pushing those thoughts aside, I turned and looked around the attic, seeking anything to arm myself with. Near the window, I spotted an old iron rod, likely from the curtain that had long since rotted away. I snatched it up, feeling its cold weight in my hands. This would have to do. The tapping continued, now clearly insistent. Was it calling for me, begging me to return? I hesitated, glancing at the trunk once more. My curiosity was an itch I couldn't scratch. I needed to know what lay within those walls, but I also felt the chill of dread wrap around me. Still, it was too late to retreat. I could feel the truth clawing at me like a caged animal desperate to be freed. With my makeshift weapon in hand, I descended again, the light flickering to life as I hit the bottom step. The air down here felt thicker, an oppressive weight pressing down on me. The debris crunched beneath my feet as I moved toward the trunk, my heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and fear. As I reached for the latch, I noticed something odd on the floor. A shallow indentation, like something had been dragged across the dirt. I knelt to inspect it, wiping away the dust with my fingers. To my horror, the marks led away from the trunk and deeper into the dark corners of the basement. "What?" I whispered to myself, feeling the edges of panic begin to creep in again. Suddenly, a chill swept through the space. The temperature dropped noticeably, a cold breath of air almost whispering in my ear. I straightened up, ready to turn back, but then I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Something shifted in the shadows, just beyond the beam of my flashlight. A silhouette, barely there but undeniably present. I felt my stomach drop. The house held secrets, and now those secrets were watching me. "Who is there?" I called out, courage wavering. This was different from before, I wasn't sure I could just run again. The figure moved closer, and my instincts screamed to flee. But something within me compelled me to stay. I tightened my grip on the iron rod, taking a cautious step forward. In that instant, the flashlight flickered and then went dark, plunging me into complete darkness. I was not alone anymore, and whatever waited in the shadows was closer than ever. I stumbled back in shock, the iron rod slipping through my fingers and clattering to the floor. The darkness enveloped me like a thick fog, my breath coming out in panicked gasps. I raised my hands, trying to reach out for anything solid, for reassurance, but touched only emptiness. Then I felt a cool, whispery presence brushing against my skin. It was like a chill running up my spine, but mixed with something else, something that felt almost alive. A slow realization dawned on me that I was not just experiencing fear, I was being watched. "Show yourself!" I shouted, attempting to sound braver than I felt. Silence stretched back at me, only thickening the tension. The shadows were still, but they felt charged, alive with malevolence. I crouched low to the ground, heart racing, willing myself to find the flashlight. My fingers brushed against the damp, cold earth, searching. "Come on," I murmured to myself. My hand finally made contact with the flashlight, and I quickly picked it up, frantically flicking the switch. Nothing. I cursed under my breath and shook it, panic rising. Just as I was about to give up, the beam sputtered back to life, illuminating the basement in a harsh, white light. I swung it around, the beam slicing through the shadows. My heart dropped as it landed on the figure. It was a woman, her face pale, almost translucent. She seemed to drift closer, eyes hollow yet piercing. I couldn't look away, even though every instinct told me to run. Her mouth opened, but no sound emerged, just a breathy exhale that chilled the air around us. "Please, what do you want?" I croaked, fear making my throat tight. She didn't respond, didn't blink. Instead, she raised a finger and pointed toward the far corner of the basement, where darkness swallowed everything else. Without thinking, I followed her gaze, feeling compelled to see what she wanted me to find. But as I stepped closer, the air thickened. The shadows shifted, and the faint whisper returned, louder now, a cacophony of unseen voices. They called out, pleading, warning, screaming all at once. The woman's expression changed. A mix of urgency and despair washed over her face, and she stretched her arm toward me again, more emphatically this time. I could feel the weight of her intent, a desperate need to convey something vital. "What is it?" I shouted, feeling raw panic clawing at my insides. The shadows intensified as I hesitated. It felt like the very essence of the basement was pushing me away, urging me to turn back. And that's when I saw it. A small, worn box half buried under mounds of dirt. The edges were frayed, as if it had been there for ages, waiting. In that moment, the woman's eyes narrowed, fixating on the box, imploring me to approach it. I stepped closer, heart pounding wildly. What was inside? Why was it so important to her? But before I could move, something surged from behind me. It slammed into me, knocking me off balance. I stumbled but quickly regained my footing, spinning around to face whatever else lurked in the dark. There was no one there. Just shadows, closing in around me. I realized then that the threatening presence had heightened, now more than ever. I was trapped in the basement with a disembodied woman who had messages to relay, and disturbing whispers drowning rational thought. I took a deep breath and aimed the flashlight at the box. It was time to confront what lay beneath. But before I could reach out, a deafening roar erupted from the darkness, shaking the very ground beneath me. I froze, and a chilling thought pierced my mind, perhaps some secrets should remain buried. I couldn't shake the feeling that roar had reverberated through my bones, stirring something deep within. The woman's hollow eyes seemed to plead with me as the echoes of that sound faded, replaced by an unsettling stillness. My heart pounded heavily in my chest, but I knew I couldn't back down now. "What's in the box?" I whispered, half expecting her to answer. Instead, she remained silent, her gaze still fixed on the object half buried in the damp earth. I took a cautious step forward, the flashlight beam trembling as my hand shook. The whispers returned, a tidal wave of hushed voices crashing against my ears. Each word was a desperate plea, overlapping one another, drowning out any rational thought. "Find it," a voice begged, sending chills racing through me. "You have to know." It took every ounce of courage I could muster, but I knelt down and began to dig away the dirt. My fingers scraped against cool wood, the box revealing itself piece by piece. An uneasy sensation twisted in my stomach. I felt like I was trespassing into a realm far beyond my comprehension. I finally unburied it fully and held it in my hands. The box was small, ornate in a strange, archaic way. Symbols I couldn't decipher twisted across its surface like the tendrils of some ancient story. I hesitated, the weight of its significance pressing down on me like a shroud. "Open it," the woman urged silently, her eyes pleading even more. But why? What was it that made this box so critical? As I pondered, I felt that surge of presence behind me again, stronger this time. My skin prickled with unease, and I turned slightly, and for just a fleeting moment, I thought I saw a second figure, darker than the shadows around it, lurking just out of view. My breath hitched. Desperate to divert my attention, I climbed to my feet and faced the woman again. "If you want me to open it, give me a sign," I said, trying to mask my trepidation with bravado. As if in answer, the air grew colder, a chill snaking down my spine. The shadows rippled like curtains in a breeze, and the floor creaked ominously. The room felt alive, as if it were physically reacting to the box in my hands. I had to know. I needed to find out what secrets this relic held. With trembling fingers, I flipped the latch, the sound echoing in the silence that had enveloped me. As I lifted the lid, a sudden gust of wind blew through the basement, extinguishing the flashlight's beam and plunging me into total darkness. Panic surged as I fumbled with the box, the edges digging into my palms. I could still hear the whispers, now frantic and discordant. "Close it!" cried a voice, one I hadn't heard before. "You don't understand." But it was too late. The box sprang open, and in that moment, an icy tendril of energy shot out, wrapping around my wrist. My heart raced. The shadows thickened, and I was engulfed in a whirlpool of darkness, a storm of urgency, danger, and secrets begging to be uncovered. Then everything went dark. I gasped for breath, but it felt as if the darkness was smothering me. My heart was pounding like a drum, each beat echoing in my ears. My thoughts raced. Where was I? It seemed impossible to distinguish where the whispers were coming from. They slithered into my mind, a cacophony of warnings and pleas. "You need to leave. It's not safe." I struggled against the grip of the icy energy tightening around my wrist. It was not just a mere sensation, it felt like a phantom hand trapping me within this shroud of shadows. "Let go!" I shouted into the void, panic coursing through me, but there was no response. Then, suddenly, the darkness splintered. A dim light flickered back into existence, illuminating the basement. I blinked, disoriented. My flashlight lay in pieces at my feet, but the box was still there, its lid propped open. The symbols on its surface now glowed faintly, radiating an eerie light. I could feel the woman's gaze on me, still standing in front of me, her presence as haunting as ever. But I noticed something new: she was fading. The longer I stared at the box, the more she dissolved into the shadows, like mist under the sun. "Wait!" I reached out as if my voice could pull her back, but she merely smiled, a sorrowful, knowing smile. She seemed to drift further away, like a memory slipping through my fingers. I was losing her, and I felt an ache in my chest. The whispers intensified, a swarm of voices pressing against my mind. "Close it. Take it away. It mustn't be opened." With a jolt, I remembered the things I'd seen in my childhood, forbidden places, stories told in hushed tones around campfires. What had I done? I thought of the things that had been left unspoken. How many times had I wondered why I felt drawn to them? This was one of those moments, the kind that would haunt me if I didn't act quickly. I shot a glance back at her, but she was gone, leaving only a lingering chill. The box felt impossibly heavy in my hands, and I was on the brink of throwing it away when I noticed a glimmering object nestled inside. Cautiously, I leaned closer. A small key lay within, ornate and shimmering in the dim light. My breath caught again. Why would there be a key? A rush of curiosity fought against my fear, pulling at me. Where did it lead? My thoughts spiraled. What door does this unlock? Before I could decide what to do, I felt a rush of cold air that sent shivers down my spine. I turned, eyes scanning the basement. That shadowy figure from before, the one I had barely glimpsed, was back. It loomed in the corner, solid yet indistinct, watching me with a presence that sent a wave of dread through my veins. I realized I was not alone. "Who are you?" I managed to croak out, voice shaking. The figure shifted, and just as quickly as it appeared, it vanished into the darkness. Then came the realization I hadn't just opened a box, I'd unlocked something much darker. The whispers spiraled around me once more, this time blending with my racing heart. "You must choose," a voice warned. "Will you stay, or will you fight?" The weight of the decision settled heavily on my shoulders. I clutched the key in my palm, knowing that whatever lay ahead, I couldn't turn back now. I stood there, clutching the key, my mind a whirlwind of fear and confusion. The basement felt colder now, as if the shadows had thickened. I glanced around, half expecting the figure to loom back into view. But it didn't. I was alone, at least for the moment. The box still glowed, its symbols pulsing rhythmically as if they had a heartbeat of their own. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed through the space, breaking the silence. I jumped, the sound reverberating against the stone walls like a gunshot. My heart raced faster. What was that? I wanted to run, to escape this nightmare, but the key's weight in my hand anchored me to the spot. I had opened this box, something had changed. "Stay or fight," I repeated under my breath. I could hear the whispers melding together again, a foreboding chorus, urging me to act. With renewed determination, I walked over to the glowing box, hesitating just for a moment. I peered inside. The key gleamed enticingly. What could it possibly unlock? That's when I saw it. Another faint glimmer, hidden beneath the remnants of shadows. I reached in deeper, fingers trembling as I felt something smooth and cool. It was a small piece of parchment, folded neatly. I didn't remember seeing it before. With a quick intake of breath, I unfolded it. The words written in a hurried scrawl sent chills down my spine, "Beware of the truth, some doors should never be opened." A realization hit me like ice water. This wasn't a simple key, it was a key to knowledge, perhaps even to a fate I couldn't comprehend. I had to make a choice. But even with my newfound resolve, doubt clawed at my insides. Who was I to step into this world of shadows? I hesitated, biting my lip, the weight of the parchment heavy in my hands. Would I truly risk everything to find the truth behind this box? Just then, a flicker caught my eye. The shadows in the corner began to twist, forming into a more distinct shape. A figure emerged, this time clearer than before. The same shadow from earlier was back, but it no longer seemed to linger in the background. "Why are you here?" I called out, my voice wavering. The figure took a step closer, moving with unnatural grace, the air around it pulsing with a heavy, suffocating energy. "Because you opened it," the figure replied, its voice an echo of the whispers that had plagued me. "You must choose wisely now. The truth comes at a cost." My heart dropped. I didn't want a cost, I just wanted to go back to my life before this all started. But there was no turning back. Whatever was happening, it seemed that I was already entangled in it. "You will need that key," it warned, gesturing toward the glowing object in my palm. "It will lead you to answers, but you may wish you never sought them." In that moment, enveloped by darkness and revelation, I understood the depth of my predicament. I was tangled in something much bigger than myself, and the way out was not as clear-cut as I hoped. Before I could respond, the basement's temperature dropped further, and I shivered. The lights flickered, and I could hear faint whispers again, closer this time, overlapping and urgent. They seemed to be beckoning me forward. As the shadows thickened, wrapping around me like a living thing, I realized my choice had never felt so pressing. Gripping the key tightly, I stepped toward the approaching shadows, uncertain of what awaited me. But I knew one thing for sure: I had to confront whatever lay beyond the veil. The shadows surged around me, suffocating and thick. I fought the urge to recoil, my heart thumping wildly against my ribcage. I had stepped into a realm where reality felt like a delicate thread, ready to snap. As I pressed on, the darkness seemed to swirl around my ankles, urging me forward, urging me to confront the unknown. Before I could gather my thoughts, the figure spoke again. "You are seeking answers, but remember, some truths are better left hidden." Its voice, now more defined, sent a shudder through me. I had to know what it was guarding. Answers to what? I took a shaky step closer, the key still clutched in my hand. "What lies behind this door?" The figure extended a shadowy hand, and the air grew heavy. "The truth you seek is layered within you, waiting to be unearthed. But with each piece uncovered, something will change." "Change how?" My voice dropped to a whisper, filled with dread. I felt the tendrils of uncertainty coil around me, squeezing tightly. "Only you can decide," it replied. "But remember, the key is merely a tool. The real unlock is within yourself." I blinked, trying to decipher the riddle while also resisting the urge to turn and flee. Just then, a cacophony of whispers burst forth from the depths, louder and more insistent than before. They intertwined, each voice echoing my fear: "Open it, unlock it, discover it." I tightened my grip on the key, the warmth of its metal grounding me amid the gathering storm. Up ahead, a door materialized from the shadows, its surface smooth and unmarked. My hands yearned to push it open, but a paralyzing fear held me in place. "I can't just unlock that door," I insisted. "I don't know what's on the other side." "Would you rather live in ignorance?" The figure pressed, its patience thinning. "You have already begun this journey. Do not turn back now." Before I could respond, the whispers swelled, and the shadows undulated with an urgency that felt almost alive. I took a steady breath, the warmth of the key igniting a flicker of courage within me. Perhaps the only way to rise above the fear was through it. I took another step forward, each footfall echoing as it resonated off the stone walls. The door stood before me, waiting. For a moment, I hesitated, but curiosity clawed at my resolve. I had to know what lay beyond. With a firm decision, I stepped forward and placed the key in the lock. It fit perfectly, as if it had been waiting for me all along. I glanced back at the figure, searching for any last words of wisdom or warning. "Remember, the truth may reveal more than you bargained for." And with that final caution, it began to fade, melting back into the shadows. The key turned with a soft click, and the door creaked open, taking me by surprise. A light spilled forth, illuminating fragments of an unknown world. My breath caught. Behind the door seemed to stretch into infinity a vast, dark expanse filled with swirling images and echoes of laughter, cries, and whispers. In that moment, I stood frozen, peering into the abyss of what I had wished to uncover. Would I step into the unknown? Just as I was about to cross the threshold, the basement quaked violently. Everything shifted as if the earth beneath was protesting my choice. Panic surged through me. Was I ready? The shadows reached out one final time. "Are you sure?" they whispered, haunting yet tempting. With a deep breath, I prepared to leap into uncertainty. One path lay lit before me, the other only shadows. In the end, I had to choose. What would I find waiting on the other side? I blinked and squeezed my eyes shut, heart racing, propelled forward by a mixture of fear and curiosity. The shadows seemed to retreat reluctantly, their whispers fading into a murmur as I stepped through the doorway. Instantly, I was washed over by a wave of colors, sounds, and sensations I had never felt before. It was exhilarating, and yet, it felt perilous, a mirage of wonder dangerously bordering despair. As the door swung shut behind me, sealing away the basement I had so desperately retreated from moments before, I found myself in an infinite expanse of swirling darkness punctuated by fading images. I could see the Mitchells, their faces etched with sorrow, their laughter echoed around me and twisted in haunting melodies, remnants of a life that had once overflowed with joy and anguish. I could almost feel their presence. "Help us," a voice echoed, like the warm breath of a forgotten summer. Simultaneously, I yearned to assist while being drawn to the inevitable pull of my own reflection. I turned, caught in a whirlpool of memories, their memories inclusive of my own. "Who are you?" I cried out, unable to distinguish between their reality and mine. The shadows responded with a shudder, flickering to and fro like candle flames. "We were once here," the voice returned, solemn and low. The family's essence swirled around me, embracing me yet chilling me to the bone. The urge to run back through the door surged in me again, yet I clung to the hope that somehow I could find a resolution to their history, even if it meant facing the unfathomable. What would it take to free them? What would it cost me? "Some truths bind us," another voice whispered, laced with sorrow. "You hold the key." I glanced down and saw the ornate key gleaming amidst the chaos. My fingers tightened around it, the reality of what it symbolized crashing over me like a tidal wave. But before I could grasp my next move, a flickering light emerged from the depths of the shadows, illuminating an idle figure standing distantly. A woman, face shadowed yet familiar. It struck me that she was not Eliza, the one I had come to learn about, but rather a reflection of myself. The figure beckoned gently, her expression pleading yet somber. "What do you want me to do?" I whispered, willing the words to carry across the distance. "Do you want to be saved?" "You must choose," she said with a voice that resonated across galaxies. "To free us is to bind yourself." Fear gripped my insides. What sacrifice would that demand? In the whirlwind of the ghosts surrounding me, I struggled to maintain my resolve. "What will happen if I do nothing?" I replied, uncertainty spilling forth. The swirling energies around her began to fracture, the air thick with tension. "You already embarked on this journey," she countered. "To turn back now is to relinquish the choices made." With each heartbeat, I could almost feel the ground quake beneath me. Was fate demanding me to either embrace or escape? In the edge of my vision, I could see the darkness stirring, whispers intensifying around me, a cicatrix of realities fighting with every breath. A flash of the Mitchell family's final moments surged through me, a desperate attempt to ward off the darkness, but they had failed, their truth lost to the ages. If I had any chance to redeem them now, I wouldn't turn away again. "Fine," I shouted out into the emptiness. "I'll help you." But in that declaration, the power of choice worked its magic. The shadows thickened, and the woman's visage flickered. With the opening comes change. You cannot foresee the consequences, but you must act with intent. With a determined heart, I lifted the key, feeling its weight extend into the depths of everything that lay before me. I was resolute I would not abandon them like those before me. Whatever it would take, they deserved more than the grave of shadows they were encased within. With my heart roused with purpose, I plunged the key into the darkened abyss. I felt a surge of energy pulse through me, a connection energized as it spiraled, wrapping around the essence of truth. Intertwined with the Mitchell family's past. Shadows erupted in luminous brilliance, filling the emptiness with a kaleidoscope of colors, dancing away the fear that had trapped us. Suddenly, the chaos embraced me, whirling faster until the memories spiraled around in a blinding light, and I gasped as everything began to dissolve. The cool darkness I once feared melted away, and I could feel the sunlight pouring into my consciousness, holding on to me like a warm embrace. As the visions faded, I felt as though I was being ejected from a dream that held so many threads still left unspooled. I blinked, standing once again in the attic. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating every corner of the space. My heart raced, caught between triumph and despair. I could hear the echoes, faint whispers of their names, their laughter blending into the light, still layered with questions unanswered. I inhaled deeply, slowly realizing something without closure. The weight of the truth remained within me. I might be free, but so many questions were still wrapped tightly in shadows. I held the journal in one hand, the key still warm in the other. I moved through the house feeling lighter, alive but uncertain of the path that lay ahead. Questions buzzed in my mind. What would I do now? Was I truly free from their plight, or had I merely begun a new chapter? I ventured back toward the attic door and paused. As I turned the knob, the whispers echoed softly. You have chosen. The door creaked open, warmth spilling from within, and I stepped across the threshold, the memories of the Mitchells swirling around me as I took my first steps into the light of a new beginning. But lingering doubts trailed behind, whispering fragments of the past that might forever remain unspoken, as I ventured into uncharted territory where the unknown continued to beckon me forward.